All right, welcome into the hours. We're glad to be spending this time with you today. And Tyler and I are actually joined by a very good friend of mine, Stephen Dale. He is a longtime friend in the coaching world and a former neighbor of mine, but has since moved. And he is one of the best in the business. He is a guy that I have gone to for advice. Really well-rounded coach, gives great perspective. In fact, he's going to start helping us with our courtside consulting. We recently launched our courtside consulting campaign. That is our private one-on-one consulting that we do for coaches, and Stephen is one of the best. So he's going to provide a lot of value to all of our coaches. So Stephen, happy that you're here with us today.
Thanks, guys, and thank you for that intro, Mark. Yeah, I'm excited to be here on with you guys today. Just a quick backstory. Just wrapped up my 12th year as a head coach, 17th year overall in coaching. Um, you know, every year is a new challenge, and I consider myself a lifelong learner. And you know, so I spend a lot of time, in professional development myself, and I feel like teaching is the best learning. So for me to kind of make this natural progression and stepping into your side of things is great for me with where I'm at in my career and then just where I'm at professionally. So thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here again. One thing Stephen did not say is he kicked our butts in the 2018 semifinal game. So, yeah, just really good coach, like-minded, runs a lot of conceptual offense and has run several different defenses over the year. Most recently, really committed to like a pressing system that I know you had a lot of success with.
Yeah. Well, I would say, Mark, the career win-loss record is probably closer to 500. I mean, we definitely have taken our fair share of butt kickings at his hands as well.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to see some film.
Yeah.
That's right. We got it. It
Yeah, I
lives.
don't doubt it.
All right. Well, let's jump in here. We have a new format here. So what we're going to do is go through the one big question of the week. We'll go through our mailbag from the community chat in the app, and we'll share a game of the week, and then maybe a tip on how to practice better. I'll lead us off with the big question of the week. And Tyler, maybe you go first. I'll put you on the hot seat here, and you can take this for however you want it. Any position, post, shooter, dominant guard. But best way or go-to way for you to take away the other team's dominant player?
I think first I would consider what are they dominant at, and then try to take away that thing, as opposed to try to limit them from touching the ball or limit them from shooting. One of my favorite anecdotes, we're going way back here, but when the Houston Rockets were facing the Los Angeles Lakers back in the Kobe Bryant era, and Shane Battier at that time was like the Kobe. I don't know if you ever stopped Kobe. He was the Kobe inhibitor. He did this big interview after the series when he talked about his approach to guarding Kobe Bryant, and shared something that would be very similar to my approach in trying to take away a star player is identify their zone of greatest inefficiency and try to get them to operate in that zone. So as opposed to saying, they're not going to touch the ball or they're not going to shoot or whatever, just let them know, okay, they do this thing, but they do this thing much less efficient than they do every other thing, but they like to do that thing still. So we're not trying to like fight an uphill battle. We're actually just allowing them to do something they might already do. So for Kobe Bryant, for him, it was actually pull up mid-rangers going left. And that was actually one of the motivations in my journey in developing lock left is like, shoot, even if Kobe Bryant is a little bit less efficient when he puts the ball on the deck going left, for him it results in a mid-range pull-up most often, whereas when we put the ball on the ground going right, he tend to get to the rim, get things at the rim, draw fouls, et cetera, et cetera. So, Shane said, hey, I'm going to make him go left. He'll probably shoot somewhere in the low 40s on these 2-point field goals. He's going to get his 30 points, but on close to 30 shots. And we have a chance to win a game if that happens. But we don't have a chance to win a game if we let him do anything else. So I think I would approach guarding a star player in that way and say, okay, what can they do that we want to allow them to do?
That's I love that. Really different than the way I would approach it. I would actually go the other way. So I love the new perspective. Some things we've done in the past would be adjust our gap. So like if it's a really good shooter, just instead of being maybe 50-50 to the ball in our man or 60-40, we would be like 80-20, where we might still be in gap position or deny position, whatever you play, but just closer. Or a dominant driver, maybe go double team them, get the ball out of their hand, or just a dominant player. Double team, get the ball out of their hands, deny it back. So, or the opposite would be just we don't have a player, we don't have a Shane Battier that can limit Kobe. So we're all doing it together. Every time Kobe has the ball, we're just at blocks and elbows, and just maybe we frustrate him in the taking those mid range going left. But we just wanted that player to see 5 defenders at all times. Every time he had the ball, maybe that physically, mentally wears itself down. So two kind of two opposite approaches there, but I like yours. Just get them to operate in the zone where they're least efficient.
I just love it when we disagree. So that's the goal of every big question moving forward. Can we create dissonance? And it depends answers.
Yeah, I would, to chime in here, I would say our approach here is probably a hybrid of the two. So I'll take the middle ground here, and just kind of talk about, I think like philosophically as a coach, we've kind of made the mistake of like drastically changing our defensive approach to account for one player. And we went through the hard part of losing games that way. So now what we really try to do is, again, I think a hybrid of the approach of what you two have talked about is, okay, within our defensive style of play, what are the adjustments we can make that are going to be relatively simple that can give us the biggest return? I think, like to Mark's point, particularly because we press, we try to deny the ball to certain guys. If they're a high school player that's that good, they're probably pretty ball dominant, so we're going to try to deny the ball. We're also going to adjust our gaps depending on if, he's a driver or a shooter. But I think to Tyler's point too, though, one thing in our scouting we're going to look for is what can this guy be lulled into, right? If he's really, really good at getting to the rim and is not a willing passer, then we can probably lull him into what we call tough twos, right? Those kind of elbow pull-ups. And we're going to try to focus that. And I think what underlies all of this, and this is probably the biggest thing we've grown to start stressing when we play these kinds of players, is like our communication has to be on 10, right? Whatever it is that we're doing, we need 5 guys talking through it together the entire time. Like we say, it's not going to be a secret to the other team what we're trying to do after the ball gets tipped. And I think that's helped us just kind of stay committed to whatever that adjustment may be, since it's not going to be the norm of what we do.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's a great point. I just want to double down across all decisions, whether it be guarding a star player, executing your offense, after timeouts, whatever. Like the more you can stick to what you're good at and not introduce new things game to game, moment to moment within the game, you're going to execute it better. I think that's like one of the most common blind spots for coaches across the board, especially young coaches. And then they just harp on, we got to execute. No. It's actually a plan that they're unable to execute. You don't have an execution problem. You have a complexity problem. And I think that, within all of the frameworks that we offered, I think that being a guiding principle, stick to what you're good at, operate within the principles that you have, and then see what tools you have. It can be a great tool, but if you don't know how to use it, you're going to make a mess.
Yeah, I'll say this. Another principle to operate out of, and Tyler, you can put this in the lock left context if you want, but we always approached any game or game plan. One, we wanted to focus more on ourselves, and the way we would do that defensively is take away their transition, take away their layups, take away their threes, and then the stuff that they run. And the stuff that they run really becomes your game prep, and that might be how we take away the dominant player. Like, what are we going to do to limit him, or like y'all said, lull him into his least efficient part of his game or her game. And honestly, I asked this question because originally 2 nights ago, I guess that was Tuesday night, watching Jalen Brunson just torch the Pacers. I don't know if either one of y'all got a chance to watch that game, but they were doubling Brunson, whoever they doubled off of, that Nick would just flash to the high post, and they would hit the high post, throw it down for a lob or a dunk. And they've picked up Jalen full court, just trying to wear him down. And I think he had 44 on him. So just nothing is working, which spurred the question. And pretty cool to see the Pacers and the Knicks go at it. I think we're all three children of the 90s. So just seeing a throwback 90s series is pretty cool. Seeing the Garden rocking like it is, that's really cool to see.
Yeah, let me, and I will, it's almost identical, but lock left takes away the R buts. And if we're saying measurement is magic, you get better at what you measure. I would encourage all coaches, regardless of your system, to actually do some measurement on R buts, not outcomes, but how many you get. So RBUT, that's just makes it plural. So R is right-hand drives. B is breakaways. U, uncontested threes, and T is what you mentioned, Mark, but the things they want most, like the person or action, whatever they want most. So how many times do you give those things up? And like we talked about this week in the cohort with shooting, that the greatest improvement comes from eliminating your misses or eliminating your errors. So I think the same thing goes for defense, right? It's not like, okay, let's get better at these things. No, let's eliminate these things. Can we eliminate all breakaways? Can we eliminate all uncontested threes? That's going to get you the greatest leverage, as opposed to, let's add these things. Let's add these different ball screen coverages, or let's add these different rotations or whatever. And if you measure those four things and improve your measurements on those four things, I guarantee your defense is getting better.
Yeah, really good. The measurement piece, I love that. Here's a question. Have any of you ever taken the approach of, all right, they're going to get theirs, we just limit everybody else, and almost just not even pay attention to the dominant player, make too many decisions based off of them, but we can't have the dominant player get 30 and then the other players, get above their average as well?
Let Steven go first on that one. Unless he's frozen.
He might be frozen.
Dominant player has not been effective for us. Maybe we haven't coached it the right way, but I feel like we have erred on the side of, again, the idea that we're going to shut a guy out that's that good, or we're going to keep the ball out of his hands. That's not realistic. But I think it is about, and this kind of piggyback on what you guys were just saying about measuring, it is about, I would say we probably use a little more analytics with our guys in preparation and in the game with these kinds of players than otherwise, where we may go in to the game saying, we want less than a point per shot, right? We feel like if this guy gets less than a point per shot, we're going to be fine because they don't have enough personnel around him to overcome that. So we'll remind our guy, we will give our guys updates in between quarters, in timeouts, that where we are with that analytic. And I think that's something that our guys have bought into. And I would just say that's kind of the way we've gone, to simply say, hey, let him go get his 30 and we're going to shut out everybody else. What's going to end up happening is when that guy gets to his spots and gets to the rim with ease, he's still going to naturally draw help, which is then going to still keep everyone else open.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And the only thing that I would add to that's a little bit different is, I think one of the best things that you can do, if we're leaning into this concept of opposite game, if you have a star offensive player, I would put a lot more emphasis not on stopping what they do offensively, but I'd actually put a way more emphasis on making them work defensively.
Yeah.
Which I think that I'm just shocked that the Thunder have not targeted Luka on the defensive end more than they have. If I was the OKC coach, Luka would be defending every single action, every single possession, the entire game. Not to mention just the foul discipline issue, that you might actually get some minutes with them on the bench more if you get them in foul trouble, but it's exhausting to work on the defensive end. And these star players, most of them hide so that they can then have a lot of energy to attack on the other side. They do the same thing with Brunson, Tyrese Halliburton. I feel like that is an untapped opportunity across most levels.
Yeah. Luca had a quiet 31, 11, and 10 last night,
Yeah,
and had a ridiculous, like, 60-foot lob, too, in transition. I don't know if y'all caught that in the second
I
quarter.
did get to catch that one late at night.
That was beautiful. All right. Y'all want to go to mailbag here?
Mailbag.
All right. Tyler, we hit this one in the chat, but I also got a similar question. So maybe you can lead off here. The question was race and space offense. What do you advise when someone other than your dragon gets the rebound off a missed shot? Um, or what if a lot gets a rebound? Do we just fill for the rebounder? So if you want to just talk about, I guess, missed break in race and space, that might add some clarity for our community.
Yeah, and I think this is it's an informative approach regardless of your system. If you can create answers that are broad and not specific, you're going to simplify and advance your offense. So if we have to provide a different answer for every scenario that might occur in transition offense, we're going to actually slow down our transition. We're going to get confusion and get into conversations that we don't need to have. Whereas if you can answer most questions with a principle, then you're going to allow them to be creative. Right. And so that's really what we're talking about, the conceptual offense or an anti-fragile offense. So if the question is, what do you do when this certain scenario happens? Well, then there's going to be like a hierarchy of answers. But the first is always race first and race always. Like, how can we get the ball up the floor and crack the shell as quickly as we possibly can before the defense can set? So I would probably start my answer, let's say the players ask that, with, I don't know, get the ball up the floor and see what they do. Would probably be my first answer. My second answer would be what we would answer for any player on our team is we want every player to be able to be their own outlet, regardless of what role they play in our transition offense. So no matter who gets it, dragon lock, rack, or whatever, if you peek and don't see a 9, like a Luka 60-foot dime outlet pass, you want to actually be your own outlet and break out with your dribble until the ball is stopped. And that would be regardless of who gets the ball. So that will answer 85% of all scenarios right there, right? Then we get into a scenario, okay, well, where do I go? I'm a lock. I dribbled once. I'm not a very good ball handler. Someone looked at me wrong and effectively stopped my penetration, right? I picked up the ball in the backcourt and then hit the racker. Well, based on race and space transition rules, that means that there's going to be a corner open right now. And again, for simplicity, if your lock gets the rebound and takes a dribble, they're not going to fill their corner spot as quickly as if they didn't get the rebound. But the answer is go do your job. So the essence savvy simplicity wins is summarized as know your job, do your job. If everyone knows their job and does their job, then we're going to have some efficiency. So once the lock gets off the ball, then they go do their job and they sprint and get to the right corner. They're just going to get there late that time. No big deal. And same thing across the board. Let's say we've got a porch player, or maybe called a rabbit, right? Let's say they get a rebound and they be their own outlet, and then they pass the ball up ahead. Well, they're not going to get ahead of the ball to rim run. So they're not going to be behind the defense, but they still go and sit on the porch. They're just going to filter into the porch a little bit late. But that would kind of be how we go through it. Now we're basically answering 99% of all questions. In the last 1%, we're just like, oh, we didn't get a great transition shape on this possession. No big deal. Let's get into our 11-second action.
Yeah, I think that's the value of just running a free-flowing offense is you're not coming down and running a set anyway, so you don't have to have players in exact right spot, and hopefully we're arriving with advantage where we're in dominoes and we're getting a 9 or a 7 anyway.
Mark, can I just add one more thing that came up in our practice last night that I think serves?
Sure.
Okay, and this is okay. We're out of our transition game, or we're out of dominoes, right? So we're shirking some sort of action, and every coach's answer to this might be a little bit different. But this was really helpful for our players last night. We were having trouble flowing in and out of advantage basketball and in and out of actions, and we were working on that specific thing. And so I brought everybody in, and we had 3 teams actually in the gym. And I asked, it was like nearly 25 players and 3 coaches. I asked them all this question. I said, how many players on the floor do you need to run an action? How many players? And I went around and asked, like, okay, we'll call it 30 people, right? Players and coaches. And not one of them provided the answer that I would have provided. We got answers from 5 to everyone to 3. A couple of people said 2, right? And then most of my coaches said 2 or 3 as well. And then it got to me, and I said, okay, you're right, it depends. But I would argue you just need one. Like, you just need one player to run action, and that's usually the player on the ball. And what's beautiful about an anti-fragile offense or conceptual offense or whatever is that it doesn't matter your shape, it doesn't matter who's where, if the ball's always going to speak. And one player with the ball can trigger anything. They can pass and go run a ghost. They can pass and go run a finger cut. They can call someone for a zoom. They can tell someone to go split, right? And so, like, it doesn't matter where people are on the floor, as long as one player, usually the player at the ball, can recognize no advantage, action, and trigger it. And I think that's kind of a concept that would hopefully serve some coaches.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, my initial answer would have been 2.
Yeah,
right? Like, I was thinking just like ball screen. That's 2 players in the action.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a similar question, and it's related. So let's tackle it, and we can probably go through this one fairly quickly. I'll lead off on this one. So the question was, do we designate an inbounder on a make, or do we allow the closest player? Obviously, you can cater your system to do either one. I would say the more players you have that could inbound the ball, the more indecision that you create. So really hard to bolt up the floor if I may be the player that needs to inbound. High clarity equals high performance. So you could have one player inbound. We used, if I use race and space terminology here, we used our racker and our dragon really interchangeably. So less, I guess, more just role specific, where if Steven and I were the racker and the dragon, we just called them our rackers. And if I inbounded the ball, I would be more of the dragon. Steven would be the racker. If he inbounded the ball, he'd be more the dragon. I'd be more the racker. So those players were very, very similar for us. And we allowed the closest one of those two, which I think gave us really good pace and enough clarity. But I know there's a million ways to do it. So feel free to chime in on another way that you've been successful with, or a way that you would maybe avoid there.
I'll go here. So our rule has always been nearest guy. And what we have found, though, is that by saying the nearest guy, it still only ends up being the same, like 2 guys, right? But because there are certain guys that just aren't comfortable doing it, and they're just naturally going to go to their transition role that they're most comfortable with. But I think, again, we've just avoided the scenario of, hey, it's this one guy that has to take it out. He's probably the best guy to get down the floor given where he is on the floor when the change of possession happens. And so by saying nearest guy, we're probably still getting the same effect that you would get if you just said it's these 2 guys, but it seems a lot more free flowing and creative for them, and answers a lot of questions before they get asked.
It's good.
Yeah, that's good. And I think, like, a lot of the things that we're talking about here can be applied across the board. We're talking about who inbounds the ball in transition. But I mean, you could apply these same things to who gets back on defense, or who crashes the glass. I think the progression that I've observed, whether it be throughout a season or throughout development of a program or throughout development of a player, is structure to freedom. Generally, start with more structure and more confined things. And then that allows them to create a variation as it moves more to freedom, as they get more familiar. So, like, an example of this is like when a team's first putting in race and space, I say designate your 11-second action. It's one action. Everyone on the team knows we don't get into 9 or 7 in transition. We're going into this action. But then as your season progresses, then you can say go into an action, right? And then say, okay, we want this 21-second action. But it just goes from structure to freedom as well. I think that's what you heard with both Mark and Steven's answer. Just decide where you are on that spectrum. Yeah,
that's good. That's the value of being kind of principle based, right? Is it can look different at different times of the season. All right, let's go one more, and this can be fairly quick because Tyler, you actually hit on this one in the community, but this will give us a chance to just kind of chime in on it. So, how do you practice offense in practice when facing lock or when running lock left? And the question was, do you stop playing lock left and play something like a pack line or just a traditional defense? And your answer was exactly what mine would be: is no, because we're working on ourselves. It's the paradox of the game. It's our offense versus our defense. I will say this, and the reason why I thought we could revisit it is early on, defense will be ahead of offense. And I think it's just something that you work through. If your offense is struggling, that's a good thing. That means if you saw a lock left team, you would struggle versus them in a game. So let's get really good at that in a game. For us, at my last head coaching spot, we were pressure man to man. We were on line, up line. We did not help ball side. We switched everything, and we denied one pass away. And our offense looked really, really ugly at first. But over time, we were able to adjust. And then when we saw pressure, it felt like practice. When we saw a gap defense does take away the paint more so, but and like it was just like, oh, like it's this easy to move the ball, and it was almost refreshing and kind of put us at ease a little bit more so than if we avoided the adversity in practice and then had to figure it out in the game.
Steven, anything down on that one?
Yeah, and again, I'll kind of speak from my own context on that, which I think relates here. If what you run defensively is really tough to score against, it doesn't really matter what it is. It's going to make you right. Like, so we press the entire game. So we press the entire practice. It has not hurt our.
Do you freeze for you, Mark?
Yeah, he froze.
It's probably going to come back in here any moment.
Right when we move on.
Right when we move on. Okay, I'll say this. I'll say this one sentence as we're waiting for him to come on. And I think it is a further context with what Steven was saying. If your defense doesn't make it difficult to run your offense in practice, your defense isn't very good. So it's a good, if you're having that problem, it's a good sign. If you're not having that problem, it's a warning sign.
Yeah, really good. Let's see. I'm going through the community chat. Just want to make sure that we're touching everything. All right. Tyler, let's hit this one fairly quick, and then I'll show the game of the week. So last question we had was, I'm installing race and space and lock left for the first time. What can I reasonably expect to get in or to install for the summer? Let's assume they have maybe 4 or 5 practices. I'll share this, and then Tyler, you can go. I actually shared this in our community chat of prioritizing things for the summer. Pick something in every phase of the game. You could just pick offense, defense, or you could go transition D, half court D, transition O, half court O. Pick one thing that you want to see your team do well. So I use the example of, we want to play faster. So our one thing would be, we're going to inbound the ball quicker. Let's try to inbound the ball before it hits the ground, or maybe one bounce and then we're inbounding the ball. So that's the only thing that we're really going to focus on over the summer. And if we get that in, that's providing our base. Now, can we talk about bolting? Yes, but the things we're going to remind them before the game would be inbounding the ball quickly. We're going to measure in game, and then we're going to evaluate post game. And you could do that for each phase of the game. But yeah, I would imagine you're not going to get in the entire system. So, Tyler, any thoughts to realistically what do you think you could get in a short amount of time?
What's the short amount of time? Are we saying the whole off season? Are we saying June?
Well, yeah, let's say we're installing it right now. We got like 5 practices going in the summer league.
Mm-hmm. Mark could install it in one practice. Most coaches that haven't been doing this for 15 years, it will take you much longer, which is why, and I say this very authentically, which is why every team that we've come in and done a program clinic for has advanced so much faster than the teams that just attempt to interpret the information themselves and put it in. It's not that Mark is a better coach than all of our coaches that are members. It's that Mark is better at this aspect of coaching quick, and so he's just done it more, or myself, or whatever. So like I say that because I truly believe that if you want to go all in on these systems, the best thing that you can do is actually bring us in for a program clinic. In fact, I was texting with one of our courtside members on WhatsApp last night who was asking me specifically, I've got this money, I want to buy this thing. You said you don't think this thing is necessarily the best investment of money. What is the best investment of money? And I went through probably like 15 different things. So I said, I think investing in your people and your coaching staff is the best investment of money over a physical product. Like invest in a mental coach for your players. Invest in a nutritional plan for your players. Invest in a recovery and stretching specialist for your players. Invest in a culture development weekend where you bring in an expert for your players, or invest in a program, whatever. Like I think investing in development over things, or experiences over things, in teams and in life is a better investment. So that is a completely different answer than the one you were looking for. But I just think like that is like a principal thing. And I'll also say this, I know I'm going too long because you said quick, Mark. I don't think that the system is going to be the biggest hurdle when teaching the system. So when you're teaching race in space, or lock left, or drive in space, or whatever, the system isn't the hurdle. The hurdle is players unlearning the structure that they have spent 10 years being taught. The structure of we run plays, the structure of there's absolute answers, the structure of how we actually practice this thing, like what drills are we running, to let's just play games and actually apply our focus and intent to a game. That's what takes the most time. Once they can unlearn the need for concrete answers, once they can unlearn the need to like do walkthrough on-air drill work, and once they understand that they own the learning process, that they have to communicate and problem solve together as a team, once they can understand that context of advancing as a team, you can get stuff in immediately and super fast. But that unlearning process takes the most time.
Yeah, really good. Love that. All right, let's go to our game of the week. And the game of the week is could be the Pacers Knicks, but we take a little different approach. Basically, it's a drill or game of the week. Can y'all see this okay? Is this big enough?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so this game is called 3-ball transition. Picked this one because I knew a lot of our community, the mailbag had to do with transition, in particular, kind of a random misbreak. So if we're looking for a way to train this, this is a great opportunity. It's going to develop players that can be their own outlet, and then other 4 players will learn how to play off who has the ball and what roles or what spots to fill. So we've got 2 teams out here. We've got a black team and a red team, and we're just going to play normal 5-on-5 full court. The difference is we have a 6th player here on the red team with the ball, and then we would have a 6th player over here. They would actually have a ball as well. So the way the game goes, we play 5-on-5, and let's say player 1 shoots and X5 gets the rebound. So now we're going to transition from the other end just like we would. Offense to defense, defense to offense. The difference and why we call it 3-ball transition is a second ball is now going to come in. So X5 is going to get the rebound, and they're going to be off, and player 6 is coming on right on the change of possession. So the second that X5 gets the rebound, a new member of the red team's coming in with the second ball. So now we've got to pick up the ball. Our Wolf would have to side it and lock left, or whoever you designate to get the ball has to locate the ball, get the ball, and everybody else has to assume transition rolls. And this is good. Can be anybody. Like our next possession for red, X or our 5, or our rabbit would have the ball, whoever's in the porch. So they will now have to be their own outlet. So you're going to get a lot of random transition. So we're going to go down to the other end and play normal 5-on-5. Red would be on offense on this end. Black would be on defense. Whoever gets the rebound for black, let's say it is 4, they would take the ball off. And now player 6 would take their ball. And that's the third ball that would come in, and we would transition the other way. You can keep this going continuous. Or you can, go 2 trips and stop, whatever way that you wanted to run it. But I like 3-ball transition because it creates some unstructured break, makes it a little bit more difficult to stop the ball. And I love continuous drills where we don't have to stop it. Steven, anything to add for the game of the week?
Yeah, I love it. I think I like the free flowing nature of it. I think this is really good conditioning as well. And you can structure the end game of the drill based on first to however many points or just for time. And I'm kind of on a tangent here, but I think just to bring in the idea that, the idea that you have to put your players on the line and run as a way of conditioning and getting them in shape, I think it's a flawed premise. The way you structure your drill work in the games that you play should be your conditioning. And I love this drill for that purpose as well.
Yeah, I love that. So we actually end in the new format. We got 4 sections here. We got the big question, mailbag, game of the week, and then practice better. I'll take a practice better off of. I'll piggyback off what you said in the game of the week as far as conditioning goes. I get that question a lot too. Is what do you do for conditioning during the season or preseason? Ideally, we do no extra running for conditioning. Your practices, like you said, should be designed to build in conditioning. Here's the way to practice better and to get conditioning is compete as soon as possible in practice. Once your players are warmed up, and you can even compete somewhat in the warm-up with maybe guided defense where there's not going to be a lot of contact, but there's something competitive in there. You could even compete with a shooting drill or a game. Where you can, we just want, basically what we want is we just want something on the line as quick as possible. We want a winner and a loser, to where we can get them warmed up with some kind of competitive element, finishing game, shooting game. Then let's play a transition game. We like 3-on-1, not a lot of contact in 3-on-1 transition. That's another continuous drill. Maybe that could be the game of the week next week. But let's get them going. Let's get a winner and a loser. And then if you want to go to some kind of block practice, if you need to, or some kind of skills, guaranteed to have more juice, more energy, and you'll get more conditioning. You'll get more competitive, engaging practice, but also you'll train your players for practice to be more representative of the game. So you'll train your players to start fast because we want to start practice really fast. We want to start games really fast and sustain that for as long as possible. So that is our practice better tip of the week. Steven, we always sign off by saying stay savvy. So we'll try it together. Could be good, could fail completely. But thanks for being here, buddy. Appreciate you. Excited to have you on board. Thanks for taking the time. Tremendous amount of value just in this podcast alone. And to all the listeners out there, thanks for being with us. Stay savvy. Yeah, we did it.
Got it.
Later.